digital art, concrete, mosaics, glass, all kinds of things, but mostly generally in the public sector for universities and cities and sports arenas, things of that type. I also do some smaller work of cast glass and blown glass and other things of that type. I've been doing work since 1972. I started to do glass. I was an apprentice in Massachusetts for a while, and then went back to art school, and got my master's in sculpture at Rutgers University. And I came here, and I've been teaching and doing my work since 1982. So.
Watching this episode of Oregon Life.
Thanks for
right?
watching this episode
of Oregon Life.
OCA Media is out of this world.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care can keep families together. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Yeah, don't go off the clock in the back there.
That's 6:01.
That's the one we use to write on our timesheets.
I have 5.
Oh, boy, I have 5 as well. Let's call this meeting,
That one is good. That one's right off.
the meeting to the park board for the December meeting. Call that to order. Hey, we have a roll call.
Case.
Sorry,
Here.
Wait just a second, sorry.
getting microphones going?
You got a
Yeah,
phone?
I'm sorry, I forgot to unmute us all.
You're looking at the wrong clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear us,
so-
Dan? Okay,
Good.
we're all good.
Okay,
All
so
right.
Case,
Here.
Frisch,
Here.
Miller,
Present.
Herniman,
Present.
McDaniel,
Here.
Knutson,
She is not able to make it, she's absent.
and Jameson.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. For, also in the package was the October 10th meeting minutes. So item 3 is the approval of the October 10th meeting minutes. November, we did bypass. Any comments in regards to the 10th meeting minutes? Hearing none, can we get a motion to approve? Lynn, you got that? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Andy. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. The fourth item is the public appearance. We have the opportunity for the community to have any input. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything on the agenda. Does limit it for 3 minutes. Anybody willing to present to the park board? Come on forward if you could state your name and your address. I appreciate that.
Hello, my name is Jill Ellis. I live at 280 Eagle Drive in Oregon. Just have a quick question. I emailed Elise and Martin yesterday morning with some ideas that the Friends of Oregon Sculpture Garden came up with regarding the park plan. I know time is really tight, that this was just yesterday morning. I asked them to forward the email to your board, but since time is so short, I wanted to check if you had received it yet or not.
I don't believe so.
I don't think we have.
So Elise is out. She was out unexpectedly. And she was out vacation Monday and then was out today.
Oh,
Due to some illness. So, but she can forward that to them.
okay.
Definitely.
Okay, yeah, we had some ideas on the park plan, and I don't know if there's time to make changes at this late date, but I hope you will consider them. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for joining us this evening. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the park board? Hearing none, move on to the fifth item, reports from the village staff. 5A, the Director of Public Works, report on tree planting on the
Yeah.
14th of October.
This worked out well, because I think I had to miss the last meeting, and it got kind of left out of the packet, but I love talking about this stuff. We continue, this partnership that we have with the Sierra Club and Jake Johnson, who's a member there, in this tree planting initiative has been outstanding. I mean, this is an individual who helps organize the events, works with the nurseries to negotiate phenomenal prices for us. And then we in turn, as Public Works and as volunteers, we dig the holes. Our staff has equipment, they dig the holes, and volunteers show up on Saturday and they plant the trees, and then we of course take care of them going forward. Just this year alone, I think we'll almost be near 100 trees. And nice sized trees, we're not talking little saplings, these are 2-inch caliper trees. And so we did, the other day we did this was October 16th, or in October 14th, we planted them. Ended up being a very cold, yucky morning, but we had some really nice volunteers. Had Lynn and her husband were out there helping us, and it was fun. It was, despite the conditions and everything, actually, it was really fun. And just some pictures here to show the groups out at the park. You can see they're nice sized trees, and I think that, a large part of it is people worried about, I'm gonna be out there digging these holes. Well, when we have equipment that digs the holes, it really does make it go very quickly, efficiently, and, gets people involved. And so we have some staff that we do pay overtime to come out on a Saturday and do that, help run the equipment. But it's really been a fun project, and we'll be continuing to do that in the coming year. So that's all.
Excellent.
Yep.
Any comments from the park board? great to get trees planted, growing once again. We know that some need to get removed. Certainly, there's been a lot of them in the village.
Yeah, we've had to remove a lot with Emerald Ash, J.C. Park, and just honestly, we lose trees every year. You know, that just, trees have a life just like we do. And unfortunately, you can't always tell when the end of life is, just like us. And, yeah, I think hopefully this can get the message out there that our goal is to be able to plant way more trees than we ever take down. And I think we're at or beyond that right now.
Even with the hot summer, it's really helpful on the grass. And
And this year was really challenging on the trees. We know we lost some, but we had staff out watering almost every day, and we had the water bags on the trees and everything. We probably won't see the results, obviously, for a little while. But, you know, when I first started in this job, a little over 8 years ago, it was Kathy Esch, and I
Right.
cannot remember the gentleman's name. He was an older gentleman, and he worked with Kathy, and they single-handedly, with some volunteers, planted almost all the trees in Keller Alpine Park that are along the path.
I worked on one of those for the scouts,
Yeah,
I think.
and
helped out with
they're you know, now 6 to 8 inch caliper trees, nice, and they'll just continue to really add to the character out there. So that's kind of when I look back, I'm like, okay, 8 or 10 years from now, we'll have a lot better, or some really nice looking areas because of that. So.
Thank you for making that work. I think that's awesome. So moving on to 5B, the Community Development Report.
You know, I'm not gonna even try to think about what she was gonna say here. It's all going fantastic. How about that?
Optimism, like that.
Yeah.
All right. Any thoughts in regards to that for the park board? Then we'll move on to 5C, the Recreation and Programming Coordination Report.
She has also been out sick.
Okay.
But I know that Leanne's been working really hard on our fee schedule and getting the new structure for the fields and everything else into the fee schedule. That'll be approved on Monday night. That is a big step, I think, forward. And then we've also been meeting with the software folks, the same software folks that are doing our website upgrade called Civic. That group also has modules that help with scheduling, reserving, payment, and everything for community facilities, parks, community room, everything like that. And so I think in the future, probably in January or early February, one of our meetings there, she'll be bringing that forward as a recommendation for the software that we want to be using going forward.
So switching over to this Civic software.
Correct. I mean, if history-wise, we've always been with whatever the school district was using. And it's a little clunky. Even the school district would say that, so I'm not stepping on toes here. And actually, the same company is also talking to the school district really
Okay.
seriously. So we likely will be on the same platforms, but yeah, this will allow us to be able to schedule and manage all our shelters, our facilities, our fields, including the clubs and everything like that. So yeah, it'll be good. But she's doing a
Okay.
nice job with that.
Very good. Excellent. Helps with the coordination. Moving on to item 6, any unfinished business. So one of which on 6A is looking at review and possible recommendations to the village board in regards to the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. So that was included in the packet. We had seen some of that from the park board, had a chance to give some feedback to some of the staff. And so I know it's moving around. So is there?
Yeah, so this is pretty much our next to last step. It is scheduled to go before the village board, assuming your recommendation this evening, on Monday night for approval. This has been a long, but I think a good process for the village. It's been very thorough. Vandewall's done a really nice job for us. We have Sonia Creasel here with Vandewall, here to be able to answer any questions. Sonia did speak with me before the meeting tonight and said that she had spoken and received some information from the Friends of Oregon Sculpture Garden. And Sonia's going to be talking with Leanne about those requests. It sounded to me that some of them were yeah, really straightforward, and others might be, you know, a little bit, may or may not be a good fit right now, but, so she's gonna be talking with her about those. And of course, like I said, I'll ask Elise to forward that request from Friends of Oregon Sculpture Garden to your inbox, so you have that in the next day or so. And she might have an analysis with that too. Elise might, or Sonia might, in her absence. I think the rec plan, this has been a major draft revision of the rec plan. And, it's been neat to see all the input. There's been a lot of reviews, but, this is going to definitely give us a framework for us going forward. It also, just as a reminder, really gives us the foundation for any grant funding that we submit. If it's not, typically, if we submit on any kind of park project and it's not called out specifically in our 5-year park plan, it almost always times gets denied. So this is a major step for that.
How has the public reviews and some of those kind of attendance? Did you
I'm
have?
gonna ask Sonia to come up. Because
It's
she's
an ongoing
her-
challenges to
it-
try to get the community engaged, no matter what method we do, and so.
She's been able to attain 100% satisfaction from every resident in the entire village. It's never been done before.
Public input attendance, kind of going back. We had a community open house in the spring, that was still at your old location, and we filled the room for that. Usually about 50 people, maxed out the tables and chairs at that facility. And then various public hearings at, public meetings. Of course, we didn't have floods of people coming into this room for those reviews. And then we had the public open house in October. And that was, starting to get a little bit darker around that time. And I think the weather was bad. And there weren't many people, 10 minutes before the event. But then right at start time, I think, again, a really good attendance. So when I leave Oregon meetings, my comment is always the Oregon community shows up. So really good attendance compared to some other places that we do go to.
Good, well, thank you for organizing and making those arrangements. I know it's always a challenge to get people out and offer their community comments, but on top of it, they critical one from another avenue, but.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, questions regards to it? Yes, Lynn.
I will just say in regards to the open house, I was there and Sonia did a great job of presenting and listening to concerns from groups and members of the community, and I felt like it was a really productive event, that we got some great feedback and were able to have good conversation at the editing time, so I think it was really helpful, useful.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
No other comments? Then we'll move on to
Do you want to give a recommendation?
recommendations. Yes.
I would
yes.
maybe think a recommendation,
definitely.
recommended,
Do we have a recommendation, a motion to
and
forward to
can-
the board?
Can I just recommend that any recommendation you would have would be contingent upon staff review of the last comments that have come in and an ability to make very minor changes before Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, just, it allows the comments that have been just received yesterday or today to kind of be heard and included in.
I'll just add, like you said, minor comments, and then in discussing with Elise, if we flag any of those that seem like maybe more of a policy question, just something that, maybe we don't want to do at the staff level by ourselves, we flag that for the plan commission to take a look at.
Okay. Did you catch that, Peggy? Not a lot of confidence with that. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion?
It was Dave, right?
Dave, yeah. Dave.
Correct.
Was there a second?
Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
I just think it's important to make sure that, like you said, the last comments get heard, and then if there's something big, then take the next step there, but I think it's
Okay.
important to move this forward.
Understand that very much so. Let's call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. So moved. Wonderful.
Thank you.
you for being here.
Thank you.
Item 6B, possible recommendations in regards to JC Community Park Phase 2 construction plan.
We have Ross Rettler from Rettler Corporation, who's our design engineer for both phase one as well as Highlands and Netherwood Park, but phase one, which is in the very finishing wrapping up phases with the concession stand. So he's here tonight to just present what is encompassed in phase two, as well as just to inform you of any kind of, there's been very minor changes that we'll kind of highlight a little bit here, but we'll hopefully look for kind of a recommendation on site plan, really is just because it's just, Elise and I talked about it, and it honestly has not changed much at all, but it's been a couple years, and we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page with it.
Okay. I'll let you run with it.
Sounds good, Mark. Well, on behalf of Rettler Corporation, thanks a lot for having me again. Ross Rettler with Rettler Corp.
Speak right in the mic.
Landscape architect and partner with our firm. I guess I want to lead in by saying how much of an honor it's been to work with your community as part of these park projects. We take a great deal of pride in what your community has accomplished, not only with Highlands, but also with JC Park. It's a big park project for us. And working with Jeff and Elise, Martin, and your community as part of these projects has been extraordinary. So we moved a lot of dirt as part of phase one. We're really excited to be getting into phase two. Jeff made it a point to say, I think it's important. You guys have seen this plan before, but it's important to bring the park board up to speed on kind of where we're at. So big picture, we're looking to bid this project out here in January. We designed the park and the majority of the park in its entirety as part of the phase one project from a permitting standpoint. Dane County and making sure we have all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed in terms of stormwater. We did design the majority of this park as part of phase one. So in terms of permitting, we will need to go back to Elliott with Dane County to refresh on our erosion control permit. But our stormwater is still in place. All the wetland stuff we had worked on as part of phase one is still in place. But really, I think this is a great opportunity to just walk through again what we're doing as part of phase two. Jeff has provided, and you guys were provided, the renderings and some of our current plans. But I think to focus on just the rendering at this point from a scope standpoint will be very helpful. So as part of phase one, one of the bigger items as part of phase two, you can see it outlined in red. We're going to be completing that pinwheel of baseball and softball fields, a new 300-foot higher level baseball field. And I was talking with your baseball folks here earlier this evening. This will be an elevated mound on this field. So for a little bit higher level of baseball, we'll have a 60.5-foot pitching rubber location, and then we'll have 90-foot bases on that field. All of the amenities as part of the field, like the backstop and the dugouts, will be consistent with what's already installed out there. So we'll have a netted backstop, 8-foot high black vinyl chain link fencing, the prefabricated metal dugout roof structures that you guys see, and then a scoreboard as part of that facility that'll be consistent with the other 3 scoreboards that have already been installed. Similar to those other baseball fields, your site's challenging. There's a lot of water out on this site, so we will be under draining the outfield as part of this project, and also extending irrigation into that outfield as well, off of the new irrigation system that's already been installed as part of phase one. Skinned infield, natural infield, and then a seeded turf with amended soil outfield to improve our drainage in the challenging soils that you guys have. So I have to say it's always been a challenge as we look at how to build these outfields and get grass to grow. The contractors that we had on board as part of phase one did a fantastic job. Cooling Landscaping and Fisher Excavating did a great job to grow in those outfields. We're very happy with the outcome. So as we look at
better outcome than we had with the sod.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
which is kind of a backwards of how I thought it would be.
It's hard to find contractors today that really are able to grow high quality athletic fields, and they did a fantastic job. So we'll also have a warning track on the outside of that field as well. That'll be a different material than the infield mix. The infield mix will be red, quick pitch red by Wapaka Sands, and then that's a little coarser material that'll be in your warning track. So that's a pretty quick summary of the baseball field.
Yeah, and it'll be used. It's also being used. It's going to be used as a JV field for the help the school district out at times, because they sometimes are short that JV1 or JV2 field, and this meets that criteria.
Along the lines of baseball, so the other thing Jeff had kind of tasked us with, it wasn't originally part of the scope as part of the park project, but Stotts Field is one that we really designed the majority of the park. I mean, we had to make everything kind of fit with keeping Stotts in place, so we will be improving and redoing the infield with the same infield mix as part of Stotts Field. We'll also be putting in a movable outfield fence to allow flexibility for the open green, allowing you to do more with that green space between your infield and your outfield fence for other type of, whether it's soccer or whatever you may be doing. That movable outfield fence is something that we had looked at doing.
A smaller play field really is, yeah.
And then we also will be putting in a new scoreboard as part of Stotts Field that'll be consistent with the rest of the scoreboards as part of the baseball facilities. The other thing to touch on would be the new multi-use field you'll see in the northeast corner. That'll be consistent with the other multi-use field that was built. A little bit shorter, we had a rugby pitch associated with the southwest or southeast field, but same thing, it'll be irrigated, under drained, and have amended soils and seeded as well as part of that multi-use field for full-size soccer is really what we're accommodating there. So directly to the west of that, we will be grading the area just north of the baseball field for multi-use, just open green space for things like soccer. That area will not be irrigated and will not be under drained, but just flexible green space for you folks. Directly south of the multi-use field, there'll be a new playground, soft surface playground for both our younger folks, but also for our adults. We'll be doing an adult physical space with 3 pieces of equipment for their use as well. The equipment, and we'll see here in a little bit, just a quick rendering of what has been put together for that equipment.
Want me to go to that?
Yeah, sure. So it is a Burke product that has been specified. You can see a larger central feature. We have a spinner. Really, Elise did a really good job at picking out all this equipment. We went through the process of looking at all different options, swings, spinners. She was really the one that drove the equipment that was selected here. So one thing I would mention is that the pour in place, that will have pour in place. The area around the 3 adult features will also have pour in place. Those colors can be selected.
Yeah.
After bidding, you'll have a
Have you been out on the Highlands in Netherwood, the spongy stuff? Yeah.
same pour in place there. So that'll have a concrete apron around the outside of it, walkway. We'll be under draining that as well. But a really nice playground for not only the younger folks, but also for our adults. So.
And also, one of the things that we are incorporating in this design, like we did at Highlands as well, is what we call more adaptive play for those of all abilities. That includes kind of a spinner that can accommodate easy to put children on that may be in wheelchairs or less mobile situations, including some additional swings. There's a type of thing I think it's called like a sensory nook.
Correct.
If you want to call, where it's just basically for certain people with maybe autism or and they're overwhelmed by the noises. They like these kind of small things, and you go in there and there's stuff that they can move around. So it's trying to meet a lot of different needs, which we've had a really good success with out at Highlands, and this is just actually even more so. So we want it, and also with the solid surfacing allows for easy use of wheelchairs and other accessibility devices versus the bark and normal what we've used in the past.
ADA accessible directly off the primary path going off your parking lot. So the other thing I'll add is at the north end of the project, we will be finalizing the regional path network that'll go from the core of the baseball complex up to the north, wrapping back around. That path system will be connected and finalized as part of this phase of work. So
Ross is also gonna, we might have to replace some of this too. I've been meaning to mention that.
we can talk about.
We can talk I know it's money, but
Yep.
yeah, but if we're out here, that might be one of the things we do.
Yeah, so another one of the elements that's I think a really cool part of the project will be a new and very important part of the project will be the new 1600, The press had said it was 16,000 square feet the last time I was here, but it's a 1,600 square foot
Oh, we cut it?
maintenance building addition. And really, that's gonna be very important for your maintenance folks in terms of areas to store equipment. We have a plan put together. What we're doing, is a wainscot, so it'll be a masonry, base that comes up, a masonry foundation. This will have, footings and foundations. And then the top 4 feet will actually be split face CMU block to match your new concession restroom building. And then as you go above that, it'll be just a metal pre-finished siding. One thing that we'd like to accommodate here is some orange. Jeff's highlighting that accent band that'll go across the top. We'd like to bring some orange into this element, and then also look at the option of doing like a vinyl sign up in the peak of that to brand JC Park, or JC Community.
Jeff's Shed.
Jeff Shed or
Yeah.
JC Community Park
Oh,
now.
we can go with that too.
This will be a great building for you guys in terms of storage. There's a 10-foot wide by 12-foot high roll-up door there, and then just a 3-foot man door as well with a little awning over the front of it. So we will have lighting on the face of this to light everything up. It's a very basic building from the standpoint that we will not be extending sanitary or water to it. We will just be providing opportunities for storage. We will have water and a water hookup as part of our site package for being able to clean equipment. It will not be heated. It will not be a heated building, but it will have lights on the inside, but really a very nice storage facility for you.
We envision baseball club, softball club, soccer club to be able to have access to this building, to be able to store bases, extra materials.
And the one thing Jeff had specifically requested is we look at, I'll call it a bunker or a storage space for infield mix. So as part of this building on the outside, we'll have an area or a bin per se to store infield mix and materials. So. The other thing I'd like to touch on briefly, because I think it's important, Jeff, if you want to go down to the demolition, the site demolition plan, so you can see the area in red. One thing I wanted to touch on, because it's very important, is the removal of trees. As a landscape architect, it's always a challenge, but as we look at what we need to do out here in terms of grading to be able to accommodate the athletic fields that we will be building, you can see that the trees marked with red X's will be the ones that will need to be removed based on the grading, which is the majority of them within our project limits. The tree row to the north of the park, adjacent to your residential area there, it is our goal to maintain those trees to create and maintain that buffer between the residential subdivision to the north. But as you can see, those are the trees that are going to be removed are clearly shown with red X's. And then again, as you look at these plans, you can just start to see what was done as part of phase 1, but then really what is going to be encompassed as part of phase 2 with those red. Here you can see our grading plan showing how we'll be grading the outfields of the baseball field, crowning the multi-use field, grading that green space area north of the ball field. It's really all of the important contours and elevations that'll start to build that site. I think, this is a good one. Yep. So the one other thing we talked about day one was, can we get this park lit? At this point, what we're gonna be doing based on budget as part of phase 2 is extending conduit and bases for the athletic field lighting. You have them for the 3 ball fields that are constructed as part of phase 1. Phase 2 will be extending conduit and bases for the northeast field, conduit and bases for our multi-use field, and then also adding conduit and bases as part of the southeast multi-use field that was constructed as part of phase 1. So you guys will be set up with all the infrastructure in the ground that you need to pull your wire and set your sports field lighting in the future. We also will be adding the pole bases with the conduit that's already installed around the pickleball courts. So the ball fields will be lit from the pinwheel, we'll call it, the cloverleaf will be lit from the concession restroom building. And these additions of the lighting for the multi-use fields will be from the pedestal or the pedestal directly adjacent to your primary service. So really those controls will be in 2 separate locations, but with how the lighting system works these days, it should be very easy for you guys to control on and off.
Yeah, in fact, actually with the Musco system, we saw this up in DeForest. The gentleman pulled out his phone and 3 buttons or with three touches, and it was like lights came on, and he says it's been a lifesaver when someone calls and says we can't get the lights on, turns them on, and you know, you can schedule them, you can, yeah, you can do a lot of things, but.
Musco Control Link
Yeah.
is an amazing.
The goal really is what we want to do with this, and I know I explained this to one group, I apologize if I haven't done this for you guys yet, but the goal of this is so when we're doing all this earthwork and moving and tearing things up, that we're doing it in phase 2. And that, and that includes the conduit, but it also includes these big concrete bases that are there with the conduit running into them, with the idea that hopefully, when we can do the lighting project, it strictly is an electrical project only. So that it is literally just pulling wires and existing conduit to existing bases, and then you're only paying for the electrical labor, the materials, and the lights. And we're not tearing up grass that's been there and paths that are there and everything like that. So
They call it pole in air, really, and at that
Right.
point you have all the infrastructure.
And
that
we
you need.
really have wanted to, I mean, by having four complete ball diamonds that'll be fully and professionally lit, we'll have 2 full-size soccer fields that will be fully lit, which allows much more tournaments. And of course, the pickleball folks have asked for lights at you know, later periods as well. So I think it'll be a good setup.
If you were looking at lighting and doing just phases of them, either just one field or the other, is that reasonable to do that with this conduit infrastructure?
Yeah, yes. So I guess if I were to look at this as a project to phase, and it all comes down to budget, right? But if you look at all the infrastructure that's in place as part of the concession restroom building, there's space on those walls to be able to add the Musco control panels. I would look at it as a baseball project and then the multi-use and pickleball project because of where they're being controlled from and where they're being powered from. That is how I would break those 2 into phases if it were me and the budget were to allow. So, yeah, we worked directly with Sketchworks and their electrical engineer as part of that concession restroom design to make sure all the wall space is there so that you can fit your Musco control systems and everything you need in that building. So,
Right.
but that's Mark. That's kind of how I look at doing it. Sports field lighting is extremely expensive, and we had broke out in the budget for Jeff kind of what we believed it would cost to, and we worked with Musco on that actually as well. What it would cost to light the baseball facility and then the multi-use facility. So we do have those numbers that we did provide. So
Challenge of that obviously is if we just light the baseball first, the playing field soccer folks will not like that, and if we just do the soccer first, yeah. So it'll be some challenging decisions coming up. We'd love to all just do it all at once, but we got a lot of things that we've been spending money on, so it might take a few years.
Okay. Comments from the park board?
What are the what are the possibilities of more than one base plug on the new baseball field?
Great
Running
point.
at 70, 80, 90 instead of just 90.
Yep, Dave, that's absolutely possible. We do a CH anchor system. I'm sure you're probably Beacon. You're probably familiar with it.
Yep.
And we were talking about that here earlier today. We can put in whatever base paths you'd want. I think the one thing we want to consider is the pitching mound and elevated mound system. One thing that was brought up is the potential for a temporary mound. Those that we understand are temporary but not so easy to move. However you guys would want to do that, that'd be something we'd have to talk about with Jeff and figure out. But we can provide you as many base paths as you'd like. So
It would just be a suggestion because otherwise your 90-foot bases, you're talking 2 age groups that can use the field. So,
right.
and even if you have a mound out there that's not portable, you're only going to use it for those kids. If you have rain tournaments or whatever, you'll throw them out there. They'll deal with it.
So Dave,
But it gives them the option.
what was the additional dimensions you would want for your base paths?
I personally would go 70, 80, 90.
70, 80, and 90.
Yep.
And then the associated pitching location as well.
Yeah, and youth
For
baseball.
all 3 or for, you wouldn't have 3 mounds, would you? I'm
No,
not- I'm not a baseball
You're
guy.
not, you're just
Okay.
doing 70, 80, 90 on the base,
On the
the base paths.
Oh,
And if they have to move to 55 on the pitch or whatever, they just pound in a temporary mound in front of the hill.
Okay.
Got it.
That's the easiest way to do it. So it's just putting in plugs is all you're doing for bases. The rest is, don't even touch it.
70,
That's-
80, and 90.
And
Those
just-
are easy. Those
yeah.
are cheap. So
Yeah.
you can
Just
pound
so
them.
everyone knows, we did do some temporary modifications out here to, is this, I always forget the numbers of these fields, but.
I don't know.
Oh,
how
it's
you
field
numbered
4.
them.
And therefore the foul poles are not currently lining up with that base pattern.
Politically, you guys are in a tough spot because you just opened up a beautiful park and you needed to provide opportunities for the bigger kids here. And what can happen is that mound just moves then
Yeah.
back, or that
Yeah.
pitching or home plate location will move back. It'll be good.
Okay, other comments? Lynn?
I just have a quick question about timeline and then trees.
Yep.
So this goes out to bidding in January. Can you just give me the quick, what does this look like? Timeline?
Bids would come back at the end of January. Right now, I think we have set at January 30th. And then at that point, we review the bids, make sure everything's good with the contractors that submitted bids. And then we provide a bid recommendation back to you folks. And then ideally, similar to how we did phase 1, I see this project unfolding over the summer of 2024
Okay.
with the majority, if not the majority of all the work completed at that point, done. But the big thing that we always need to understand, and Jeff was very good about when we open up those naturally seeded natural turf fields, we want to give them adequate time to grow in. So I don't see people getting on these right away in the summer of 2024 or fall of 2024. We'll reevaluate them in the spring of 25.
Probably be,
for
I
years.
would guess midsummer of 25.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So in terms of the removal of the trees, you'd mentioned that that's necessary for the grading system. That makes a ton of sense. Once it's graded and good to go, that north area, the open green space.
Yes. Yep.
Is that an opportunity to replant tree? Like, obviously we want to keep it open enough that kids can run around and play and not run into trees. But is that a space that we could look into? And then when would we be doing that? I just know that there will be concerns when those
Yep.
trees get taken down, and to know ahead of time when we could reestablish some tree line would be nice to
So
know.
I'll answer that because that's been on my radar too. Cause
Yeah.
I know, there are the concerns over that. And so, Jake, who we've been working with, actually wanted to do JC Park this year. And I said, well, at the time we was planning it, I'm like, we really haven't taken over ownership back on it. So I told him that we would wait for at least phase 1. I want to come in and fill in more trees in phase 1 this next year.
Okay.
As part of our planting project. And then this would be likely the following year. So we want to be
Okay.
out of the way of the contractor and out of any kind of warranty work that there isn't any confusion and everything. But I want to come back, I want to plant trees along all edges. So we can, it'll look phenomenal, but it's just gonna take some time.
Okay.
Did I show the aerial photos that Rettler prepared? Okay, while you're talking, while you're asking questions, I'm
They're
gonna
pretty
pull
good.
these up because.
Turned out beautiful.
they're
The other thing, Lynn, I think to add is that I have a $15,000 allowance in your budget right now for planting of trees as part of phase 2. So when you start to see, and it's very basic in that rendering, we will be planting some trees along the pathways,
Great.
similar to how we did phase 1. Obviously, we don't have parking lots as part of phase 2, so we're not getting involved in that in terms of the ordinance and all that good stuff. But we will be planting trees on the outlying areas as part of phase 2 as well.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, these were photos that were taken, it was October, probably the prettiest day in
Fall
October.
color, yeah.
Huh?
Fall
Fall
color.
color and everything, so you can see this is the playing field, soccer field, rugby pitch. This is that, so phase 2 is this area, and it's tough. I mean, when you build new fields and everything like that, it's always been part of the plan. But and you can see some are actually already dead over here, have been dead, so those are ash trees. But yeah, it's really turned out nice.
The big problem we have really at the end of the day is that these are in the middle of athletic fields, and specifically with grading of the site, as soon as you cut in along those drip lines, number one, they can't be in the middle of an athletic field.
Right.
But number two, as we start looking at grading and balancing the site out, as soon as you cut into the drip lines of those trees, we
So, Lynn,
do our best.
yeah, my goal is along this length here,
Yep.
along here behind the monument. We want to stay kind of out of these little warm up and area, spectator areas, but we've got a lot of potential back in here. We even have some potential over in here, a lot of potential around the new shed, and then all that we can fill in over here.
Okay.
It's gonna look, I mean, it's like what people did when we started to develop J.C. Park 1, was they kind of said, okay, where are the fields, and then we can plant outside of those. And then in 50 years, maybe they'll have a different plan and change it, so. But, yeah, these have been really fun photos to look at and see how things have come along.
You had very good contractors as part of the first phase of work. You guys they did a
Yeah.
very good job.
Excellent, yeah, they
So I have a tree question too. What happens to the trees you take down?
So as part of the contractor scope of work, those are their trees, unless we say differently. It's clearing and grubbing is a line item in the bid, and they choose to do what they want to with those. I haven't got into a lot of processes where we're like, hey, we're giving the wood back to people. I think there's a lot of work associated with that for municipalities. As soon as they cut them and leave the wood for you, there's a lot of work that goes into what are you gonna do or how are you gonna store all that material. I think contractors do different things. Some of them may just dispose of them. Some of them may take them to somebody to mill them. I think they all do different things, but.
So maybe just something to chew on before it's like a hard pass. But I mean, we have the sculpture gardens, we have the art group, maybe a tree or two, because they've got to be. I mean, they're huge, old, beautiful shade trees,
So
right?
there are some, we'll take a look at the trees and see if there's anything that is salvageable as far as, for milling. Because we've done that with some wood that was up at the old 249 North, but I think that's since been used. We had to take one tree down 5-6 years ago. The larger trees, there's a willow tree up there that really is not usable wood, and a lot of pine trees and some arborvitae or something like that. But there might be some ones that we could look up there to see if it could be reused and milled. Typically, you need to get about a 28 to 30 some odd inch tree to where it starts to become usable, because just practical milling, size and putting the effort into it. But I don't think we have anything, the only thing large enough up there is that willow tree, and willows are nature's pretty weeds. I like willow trees, by the way, but they're not really a wood that you build cabinetry out of or anything.
Or a bench
The
or
desk,
two.
the desk that you are sitting behind is actually reclaimed wood in the, in Dane County.
Is that something like, Ross, could we get an analysis of if there is any usable tree for a purpose like that? Like I would imagine like the Public Arts Committee might be interested in finding a connection or something that we could utilize that. Is that something that we could get that information as to if there's anything on that, in that area that is usable?
So typically, something like that would include a tree survey. You'd have to go through and kind of identify. The other thing we could do is, and hear me out, we could work with the clearing contractor. Those guys work with trees every day. We're landscape architects, we plant a lot of them, but these guys are the ones who are gonna cut them down. And we could very well ask them as part of a pre-construction meeting to come and meet with us and say, what elements in here, what trees do you feel are in good condition? It's not just, it's this type of tree, it's what condition is the tree in? And we could have them maybe identify a few that would be a good candidate for benches or reclaiming wood. But then we need to understand that once they cut those down, they'll stockpile them for you, but then they're yours. So we gotta find a place to be able to put that material and that good stuff. So I would propose taking that approach. Some of those clearing and grubbing contractors can be some pretty gruff guys, but they'd give you a pretty straightforward answer on, here's some good opportunity for you to reclaim and keep some.
Maybe doing that legwork too will help
Right.
ease some of the.
Yeah, I mean, we'll look at,
Tensions.
I think, I can take any time, I can take some time this week too, just to drive out and take a look at, them. I agree with Ross as far as, I don't think we want to get into a tree survey because it's not the intent to try to, you know, save the trees because it just doesn't work with the layout that we have. But just from my experience of what we've had, and we do work with local millers. We've worked with 2 local millers in the area who we've helped cut down the trees. We've helped load the trees on trailers and given them these pretty sizable pieces. I mean, we're talking 36-inch diameter by 12 feet long pieces, so that it's being reclaimed.
So even those old ashes, depending on their condition, ash is a hardwood, you're looking for things like maple and oak. I mean, those are your big, kind of the big 3 that, but, and what I'll do, Lynn, is I'll reach out to an arborist that I work with quite a bit, down in this neck of the woods actually, and kind of ask his opinion on how we could also go about doing that, so.
That'd be great.
Yep.
I had a question. With my experience with cutting down trees, like on my family's property, is once the roots die, a lot of the grass around it dies. I was wondering if that would be like it's just a barren, sad rectangle. And I was wondering if that would be an issue at all with seeding for the fields.
So yeah, what's gonna happen is once they cut those, they're gonna grub the stumps out with big excavators, they're gonna pull all that out of there, that all gets regraded. And as you build that profile up, or as you build the site up, that gets rolled, compacted, so, and then we're reseeding.
And then seeding, and that wouldn't be an issue then with
No,
that? Okay.
no, you won't have any of that.
Because all the areas that get seeded get actually newer amended topsoil.
Topsoil,
brought in.
yeah.
You're exactly right, though. It can poison the soil around
Yeah,
the tree.
and it's just like a sad, dead rectangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that. Okay, thank you.
Well, do you promise no sad dead rectangles? Can you give
Good contractors.
Well, it's what happens.
Yeah, it does.
No, I
Okay,
agree.
yeah, okay, I just want to make sure that would be an issue.
Any other comments from the park board? Well, thank you, Ross, for being here. Appreciate hearing all of that. So would need a recommendation on that?
Yes, sir.
And
I think a recommendation, approval of the Phase 2 site plan.
do we have a recommendation?
I mean, I will. I mean, we're kind of handcuffed here because we want to see this go through, and but I mean, I like the idea of, finishing it, and that way, the sooner we do that, the sooner people can use it.
So Andy moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Dave seconds. Any further discussion? Let's call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Again, thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving on to the other unfinished is, let's see, the possible approval of the Oregon Youth Baseball proposal for Kaiser One Park One dugouts. So in our packet was some additional information about the dugouts and what was proposed, as well as a contribution from a family as well. And so, Jeff, do you want to cover that a little bit?
This is always, and these are projects, I call them a public-private partnership type projects. And these are some of the best we ever get to work with because we usually have active groups that are willing to help with volunteer labor, sometimes volunteer materials. They want to make a contribution to the parks and they want to make a significant contribution, and this is always money well spent when we can see this type of work done. And in this situation, and I don't, Mark, I was going to ask you, do you have any, or Dave, do you have any history on the Kaiser Park or the Field 2 dugouts and the Lions shelter? Was that a Lions project?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They put them up and then,
Both the dugouts and that concession stand type thing?
yes,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. And then the art class from the high school painted the dugouts.
Okay.
And designed the O or whatever on there now. I don't remember, but
Yeah.
yeah, they were involved in it too. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was the Lions Club that did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've always called it the Lions shelter over there.
Yeah, the shelter for sure is Lions.
I just figured they were all kind of in the same,
I think
and I
they
don't
did.
know why they did just one or why they did do the other field, probably just budget-wise and time and resources, but those have always been used well. Public Works is out there maybe every 2 or 3 years to make repairs, especially to this area and put up new netting and that type of stuff, but they're used well, and so we were contacted by Ryan Stace of Oregon Youth Baseball, and they had this, it was a fundraiser, or the family had this fundraiser for Greg Schnelly, who's our Plan Commission chair. His son passed away 5 years ago in a car accident and was an avid baseball player, coach, everything, and just kind of, they raised $2,000, came to the ball club and said, you know, is there something we could partner with, or could use this money to help improve the parks? I think it's a great idea. These fields get a lot of use, whether it's with youth softball, the adult softball leagues, the baseball, practice small, the little guys and gals that are practicing and stuff. So, so they're raising money, they're continuing to raise money, and really wanting to put concrete base down, and then come in and build dugouts. I've looked for the plans. I don't think there really were plans for the old ones. I think it was just built, and that's perfectly fine. But we would work with the baseball club to, if they needed any help with, say, digging it out or removing the old dugouts or concrete bases or something like that. We've got equipment and stuff that we can help with that. But we also have an opportunity in the Park Improvement Fund that we collect. We collect money from every new family dwelling unit building permit that comes in, and it's significant. And I've spoken with Lisa about this, and you know, we think that this could be a wise investment of the village, offering a minimum of $5,000 up to a maximum of $10,000 that they'd be able to use towards materials and labor if possible, if there's an outside contractor that has to do some work towards the reconstruction of these dugouts. So Ryan, I don't know if you had anything else, or just, he's here to, I mean, you're gonna be kind of running the project.
Yeah, thanks for kind of letting me come and speak to this. So yeah, it was, you know, when the family reached out just for some youth baseball projects, the youth baseball board gave them a whole list of things that we, you know, we're constantly trying to upgrade facilities in town, and this was the one that they, as a family, kind of picked out with Grant's, you know, involvement both as in youth baseball and adult softball. So those were diamonds that, you know, he's really familiar with. And yeah, I mean, even with the, you know, the JC Park that we just talked about, I mean, we had 540 kids playing baseball last summer in Oregon. So those Kaiser diamonds are certainly, I mean, still used like all day, every day by us, adult softball included. So, I mean, it's certainly something that we as an organization still need to invest in and kind of upkeep and keep them going, because they're still going to be used, you know, a lot, even moving forward. So.
Okay. Any comments from the park board? We're looking for a motion to based on some recommendations. So from what I heard and had seen is designate a minimum of $5,000 for a maximum of $10,000 to assist in this program. I agree that community input and certainly the support from the family, I think is awesome, is wonderful. It's great to initiate this, and some ideas don't necessarily get moved forward until something kicks it forward, and so it's really great that that did help initiate that. So, do we have a recommendation, a motion?
I'll motion to approve that let youth baseball and the village with Jeff and his guys proceed forward with replacement or whatever your plan is to get these dugouts. They are in dire need. They're parts of them are not even safe to be sitting around, to be honest. So I think this is a great idea.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Do you have any discussion?
I just want to say thank you for bringing this up. You know, it's nice to have these partnerships with the groups and the fields that they're playing on. You know, that way they're a little more vested in, you know, in the process itself too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. So moved. Thank you very much for being here and getting it forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other thing I want to add is, I don't know if, did I bring this before the park board or not? But all of this was repainted this last year by a family that just called up and said they wanted to do some service. They thought they were going to get more volunteers than they did, but the family ended up doing it, did a nice job. We bought the paint and some brushes, and they didn't tell us how high they went on ladders, and we were okay with that. And but really, and I don't know if they've done the orange O yet, but we might hold them to that, but, or we'll go out and do it, but, really, they look a lot nicer this year, and, yeah.
And that step, we even did a volunteer day last year, and one of the volunteer locations was Kaiser because of how much we use it as an organization. And so we just had parents and, you know, players out there just kind of pulling weeds and kind of cleaning them up at the beginning of the summer too. So that's something we can help with our organization, is kind of painting or whatever, so.
I'd like to see the LED lights on that as well. I've counted those out before, but. And I know I
knew
brought it up to
someone
you a
was
long
gonna
time
bring
ago.
that up. Yeah, you're right. Our lighting both at the tennis courts, which one blew down, remember, a year and a half ago. That's part of a project for the future tennis court rebuild. And then Nick did get me pricing to replace these. My fear is it's just like anything else, where will we stop? But I think we might be bringing that forward as a light upgrade project, maybe not this next year, 24, but probably 25. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the timeline on the dugout? Did I miss that?
Yeah, Ryan, what's the time?
Yeah, so I reached out to a contractor who has kids in the Oregon Youth Baseball and has been a longtime resident, and he was interested in, you know, tackling the project in partnership with us. He said he could get there, you know, in March. He's a home builder, kind of based out of Brooklyn. And I said, March works for us, right? I mean, we don't need them done tomorrow, but it'd be nice to have them done before the season. So that's our tentative timeline right now. So he was excited to help out with it and get involved.
Awesome. Great. Wonderful. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay in touch.
Item 7, new business,
Yeah,
7A. So, upcoming meeting dates, Tuesday, January 9th and February the 13th, Tuesday and the 13th. Does that seem to work?
Sure.
As far as you can see. Getting the thumbs up, Leanne. And so, are there any other items for future meeting and assignments?
Oh wait, I think this is my last day.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, were you gonna mention something?
So I
about
was.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, those dates work. I'm fine with them, but yeah, I think this is my last day.
Unfortunately, yes. Leanne, appreciate your contribution to the park board and getting a voice from the youth. It's always valuable and appreciated very much.
Thank
Wish you the best as you go forward. And
Thank
what you
you.
end up
Yeah,
doing.
I'll try and holler around the school and say, hey, who wants to be a student
Oh, yes.
representative? I've been trying. It's hard. No
Oh,
one.
yes, definitely. Some people don't fully understand what the political involvements and the engagement of the community, but hopefully you can
Yeah.
utilize this experience and
Yeah.
continue to contribute in your community as well as you go forward.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments from the park board?
I have a question for Jeff. Is Nick White gonna do that hockey or ice rink at Rustic Vineyards this year again?
You know, that's an interesting question. He's not called me yet. Because last year was I don't think they had one day on the ice last year.
Sure.
I saw another fence up somewhere last year.
Oh, there's a couple, there's,
couple other
it's, you know, so I found out that this, like in the Minnesota, I'm starting to sound like I'm from, up in Minnesota, it's a real common place. Backyard rinks and homemade rinks are much more thing, and we're seeing more of them kind of pop up in the village, which are great. The one with Nick White out there, that was a pretty big effort, and it was not successful last year, but I haven't heard.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, is there a concern, I do know that we did ask them, they did come in and remove everything to the best of our knowledge in a good time, and were able to get the grass growing again and everything, so I wasn't aware of any problems or anything with it. Are you?
No, I was just curious.
Okay, so no concerns.
I hadn't seen anything up, but I know other people are starting to put up their boards and stuff for their rinks.
Yeah, yeah.
With the hope that it's gonna freeze at some point.
Yeah, and we're still at like, what, 42 degrees this week? Yeah.
I know it's a lot of work just for that, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm just curious for other opportunities for outside skating, you know, within the village or in the area.
So a lot of people don't know this, but for many years, let me just go in here since we have this picture here.
Right.
For many years, Public Works would come out and flood 2 fields
remember
out
that,
here.
yes.
And contrary to some things that Ross say, unfortunately, this is the more permeable area of the area, because it was really hard to get fields to freeze. And plus, we'd have staff out at 2 and 3 in the morning flooding these. And it was not a popular thing, but we.
Well, not for staff, probably.
Right. But as I understand it, it was very labor intensive to keep it looking good and working well, and it just didn't work. So I think eventually that was just scrapped because they couldn't maintain it very well. And with the weather we've had, I mean, we've not had a really good freezing year, for a while. Whether it's global warming, whether it's seasonal patterns or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, we skated outside once last year.
Yeah.
And that was it. Because otherwise the rinks in
At
Madison weren't open.
Oh, where'd you go?
We went to McKee Farms.
Okay.
In Fitchburg.
Yeah.
Usually go to Vilas, to the lagoon. That was closed all year. Skating on the lakes wasn't good.
When I went to grad school, we had the community where the school was, we had one of the ball diamonds. They'd flood the ball diamond. And so we had the infield and all the outfield. And it was really neat because they had lights and sound. So they had a concession stand for a warming hut. It was really kind of fun because you go out and it was this big, huge ball diamond that they could flood. But a little colder climate and much more reliable ability to make, an ice that's usable.
Yeah.
But
we had the same thing growing up. I mean, it was just a big lot, but that was the evening babysitter.
Yeah, exactly. If we do get something like that going, I want to be the Zamboni driver. I've always wanted to drive a Zamboni, so.
It's tricky.
Yeah. Have you done it?
Yeah. In Stoughton, so.
My impressometer just went off the scale.
It's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Excellent. So again, any other comments from the park board?
Well, if it ever does get cold enough, can't we use like those drainage ditch, like the one by Alpine, the church there? It's like 2 inches deep.
Oh, so we used to do those too. Yeah. And we used to, I think it's either the one at Cusick Parkway or the one at Alpine right across the street here. And
Oh yeah, so we are.
we've not.
Right there. Right there.
Exactly. Yeah, we've not done those for probably 5 years, so maybe even longer.
Interesting. All right. If there's nothing else, can I call for adjournment?
I will move to adjourn.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Thanks a lot.